dive deep into this big LGBTQ story of 2024. I'm Von Biggs, and let's queer up the top stories of the year. This is number 23 of 2024. Leading Christians sign letter against Christian nationalism and what it means to the LGBTQ+. This story was broadcast on February 28, 2024, and was originally on Queer God Squad. There is a split between Christianity. One group rejects Christian nationalism for its bigotry, while another rallies for its divisive ideology. Let's take a look.
Leading Christians sign letter against Christian nationalism and what it means to LGBTQ+. Amidst the ongoing debate surrounding Christian nationalism, two events that took place within the span of 1 year have highlighted the opposing viewpoints within the Christian community. On one front, Christians Against Christian Nationalism launched a statement denouncing the ideology, emphasizing the importance of religious pluralism and condemning any form of oppression or violence against religious minorities. The movement aims to uphold the principles of democracy while rejecting the merging of Christian and American identities, which it argues distorts both faith and governance. This is critically important to members of the LGBTQ+ community that feel their faith and church hates them. Through the Sign the Christians Against Christian Nationalism Statement initiative, the organization invites Americans to sign the statement and show support for inclusiveness, diverse faith, and cultural diversity within the country. Sparked by events outside the U.S. Capitol, a mob gathered to express support for Christian nationalism, waving flags and donning MAGA hats. But Georgia McKee, witnessing the stark divergence, captured the scene in a video that gained significant traction on social media. In response, the Baptist Joint Committee for Religious Liberty initiated the @End Christian Nationalism TikTok account, garnering over 40,000 followers. McKee, running the account, emphasizes the distinction between Christian nationalism and true Christian values, aiming to combat the former through grassroots activism and education. These events show that there is a limit to the spread of bigotry and conservative views when it comes to faith, and we expect the same to be true when it comes to conservative views against the LGBTQ+ community.
You know, I look at this and I think we talked about it a little bit earlier, separation of church and state. And while religion is protected, you know, I feel like everyone has a right to believe in whatever religion, whatever shape or form that is in this country, and that's what this country was built on. So when I continue to see people trying to push a specific Christian value into government, it becomes a problem, because nobody can, once that's there, it's going to be even harder to remove it.
Well, it's a relief to know that there are still religious people with common sense and sensitivity at this most terrifying and treacherous time in our country's history. It's nice to hear that they're there.
Religion scares me. It's always scared me, unfortunately, right? I have PTSD, and I know that we broadcast from a church, you know, and Sunshine Cathedral has really helped me with those triggers. So has Unity on the Bay, right? No, that there's supposed to be a separation of church and state, but in every news story that I see, there doesn't seem to be, because it seems like you're trying to force religion into every. Wait, not religion, Christianity, okay? Because there are many religions.
That's right. There's no Buddhism being forced.
No, they're not. They're not forcing Buddhism, right? But they're forcing, you know, Catholicism and Christianity, and that scares me. So then that makes me scared even more about religion, because now you're telling me about Christians wearing MAGA hats. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still triggered by the American flag on a freaking truck because of the Trumpers. Right. You know, Trini, I'm super curious as to what you think about this.
I think that the media has been doing a disservice on this topic for the past 10 years because Pete Buttigieg, he brought it up. He's the first person that brought it to the national political stage, where he's talked about there needs to be a rise in the Christian left. Because you always hear about the Christian right. Christian right is like, we've got to put our religion in schools, all this stuff. The Christian left is like, what about those passages about taking the person from a different country and love them as your neighbor?
Right. Feeding the hungry.
Exactly, which is all against the Republican principles. So it always confused me when I was a young religious person and I was a clergy member. I used to hear these conservative people in my Southern Baptist circle, and I would say, why are you guys believing? Like, we just preached a whole sermon on feeding the homeless and like treating people who are from other places, just like this Middle Eastern man named Joseph and Mary came into, like, it's the whole Christmas story.
Yeah.
And it was hard for me to understand how you could subscribe to a political party that was kind of the opposite of this. And Pete Buttigieg, to his credit, came out and said, yes, this is such a contradiction, and we need to have a rise in Christian left, and we need to be platforming them and having these conversations on CNN and MSNBC because it's always painted as the Christian right. And they're there, so we need to have that dialogue between the two groups to give power to the Christian left to say, these people don't represent us because they're not really speaking out to silence these people, and they need role models to do that.
100%.
Now, I will say, in the Black community, there's a certain issue constantly going on where I can't tell where the larger Black population lies. The Black population tends to be pretty conservative when it comes to certain things, like how they view queer people and all that good stuff. But then they also see how the Christian Republicans treat Black people, and they're like, well, obviously they don't mess with us, so I don't want to lean that way. So it's really truly a case by case basis with each Black person you meet, specifically the non-queer ones. It's like, you don't mess with the Black queers or any queer at all, but you also know that on the far right, they will be happy to lynch you at any given moment. So like, where do you lie religiously? Like, what is your Christianity? And I think it's I think most religions, particularly Christianity, there's a lot of hypocrisy in it. You can love thy neighbor unless they are different. They say that their love is unconditional until a condition comes up, and then it is proven otherwise. So it's very, I don't necessarily subscribe to the Christian faith, even though I grew up Southern Baptist and down in Miami, Florida, Martin Luther King Drive, Friendship Missionary Baptist Church. I was on the usher board as a kid and all the good stuff. But then as you learn and experience life, you realize maybe what they taught me isn't what I necessarily believe in. And I still have, like you said, trauma from that. Like last night, my husband and I were watching clips from the movie Prince of Egypt. And watching, I was getting like this sick feeling in the pit of my stomach. And I was like, oh, this is kind of Christian propaganda a little bit, this whole film. Look back at The Prince of Egypt. You'll be like, oh, this is propaganda. And when you start watching films like that, I start getting like a sick feeling in my stomach because of everything I had to endure growing up. So that's my stance. I hope the cool left Christians with the blue hair and all that good stuff, I hope y'all like, make yourself known and start speaking up and let us feel more comfortable in that faith, please.
Vaughn?
You know, I grew up, with Christian background. I've been in Methodist, Southern Baptist. I've not been Catholic, other than I work for a Catholic institution now. But I'm one that really firmly believes it's all about love. It's not about, I love studying theology, but I love studying all the theology of all the religions. Because there is a common thread in every one of them, and it is about love. And that's what I try to hold on to. I don't want to judge people. There's too much drama in that. We get enough of that in our community.
But it's hard not to judge when we start thinking of people being guided, wars starting over religious beliefs, over things that are written in a book that was translated 1 million times and was written by a basic man, we go back to that, and that just, 2025, we're going to be in store for some stuff, especially when it comes to this topic. So,
also, if I may interject, I don't know if I've ever heard an interpretation where Jesus, because there wasn't Christianity before Jesus, so the Bible, where he was saying that the government has to be involved. There was never an advocacy for the government. This was a personal decision of what to do. So it's not biblical to say that we have to convert our entire governmental system into being
I believe
Christian.
it's actually against it. I believe there were areas where he actually was completely against government rule.
They pick and choose.
And mixing the two together,
that
the two of them, the whole Sanhedrin thing about you getting kickbacks as soon as you mix church and government together, it's a bad combination and everybody loses. So
and if you're going to mix it together, start taxing them.
If they're going to speak up, right?
Amen to that. Amen to that. So we are bringing you a special presentation of the 24 biggest stories of the year. We call it the Top 24 of 2024. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.